Well, now, if that thing that you want to buy, it's actually above 500 Kenyan shillings, or should I call it $4 or $5 or something of sort, you're not supposed just to buy it, you're supposed to budget for it. And let me tell you one secret why I'm telling you this is because we usually have three personalities as far as the money is concerned. And by the way, before I even tell you to subscribe to this channel, let me show you the three personalities. We usually have what we call the spenders, we have the hoarders, and we have the investors. All right. So now the spenders, these are the people who are programmed. They have this predestined thing as far as the money is concerned that, hey, once I get it, it ought to be consumed. I have to utilize it as fast as I get it. Okay. Now those are called the spenders. And then we have another personality that is called hoarders. By the way, have you ever come across these people who are making money, they are okay, they are running well with their lives, but if you tell them to invest, they don't want to invest. If you sell them an idea of doing something, they're just skeptical. What if it fails? Hey, what will happen if I do this? All those kind of things. These are people who are so much skeptical. And by the way, these are people who are usually affected by the, how they grew up. We call it the childhood trauma. There are people who believe that money is a scarcity commodity. It's not out there. Once you get it, you're supposed to hold it. You're supposed to have it all the time. Don't risk it out there. It does not grow on trees. Although, so they kind of have the fear. And when they get into the market, they usually believe like, hey, guess what? Money is not there, it's a scarce commodity or something also. Those are called holders. The last one is actually the investors. The investors, these are the people who have the combination of the spenders and the holders, but they understand, hey, guess what? I ain't gonna grow this money by just virtue of me keeping it. I have to put it on the go. I have to make sure that this money is actually doing something, is bringing me more money on the board. So if you understand who you are in this category, and today I'm actually spending a lot of time on the spenders, because on the spenders, these are the people who actually fund this thing called the consumerism. The consumerism is this character of people spending either to make themselves happy, not necessarily to actually grow them. And this is a problem as far as this 21st century is concerned. Now, the point is this. Now, why did I say you aren't supposed to buy anything that is above 500 or $4 without you budgeting for it? Let's get to the business. But before I do that, hey, did I say that I would remind you to hit that subscription button and also like this video? Maybe this is your first time watching me and you're like, okay, fine. Who is you? My name is Joseph. Talk about money, talk about investment, anything related to it, grow it, keep it and save it and all those kind of things. All right. If that's a cup of your coffee, consider calling this place a home by liking the video. All right. Now, this is the point. Have you ever heard of the term called thrift shopping? Thrift shopping in this case scenario where maybe say you have a written budget, you show up to a convenience store, a grocery store, or maybe a supermarket or a market or whichever the place, and then you had a budget of 10,000. You wanted to buy some few items. By the time you're clearing from the cashiers and you're getting out of the convenience store, then you've realized that I've actually used 12,000 instead of the 10,000. And by the way, I'm yet to see an individual who shows up in a convenience store or whichever the place with a budget of 10,000, they get out of the place with actually used less than 10,000. I'm yet to see that kind of an individual. And if you are, then you possess some of the good and wonderful characters as far as the money is concerned. Now, that extra money that you usually spent that you had not budgeted is called a thrift shopping. It's actually sort of a top-up budget or something, whichever you're going to give it or call it. Okay. Now, the point is this. You are supposed not to do exactly that. For example, ladies usually have this challenge whereby somebody is walking around and maybe they are selling a very nice thing, or maybe there is an advertisement of a certain product or a shoe or whatever the thing is. I mean, seriously, it's quite easier to say to a lady a thing compared to a man, because ladies tend to make a decision based on what they see. All right. And that's why I always tell people there are different types of customers. Okay. There are some customers whom we call them affluent customers. There are people who we call them, first of all, there are customers that we call them the difficult customers. These are people who are very hard to deal with. We have the affluent who buy based on their emotions and the influence. We have the sophisticated. These are customers who they know exactly what they want and such kind of a thing. So now the point is this. So if you want to get your problem, or if you want to get off the problem of thrift shopping, always budget for that specific thing that is above 500 Kenyan shillings. And how exactly do you do this? Okay. Now, this is my principles. For example, maybe you can steal this idea. Listen to it. For me, anything that is above 400, I ain't gonna buy that thing no matter how good it is if I did not plan, or if I do not have any, if I go back to my to-do list or into my budget, I did not capture that specific thing. All right. I cannot be able to buy it unless it's an opportunity that will make me money. For example, if say you show up with an idea that can actually make me money, even if it means like a lot of money, I'll go get it and purchase that thing because it has high chances, or maybe has chances of returning back to me. But if it's just a consumer thing, it's a thing that's actually, sort of a sustainable or something, or so does not have any sort of a growth, I ain't gonna buy that specific specific thing, all right? And that's what I usually wonder. Sometimes you can be sitting with a guy somewhere. Even men have this problem, by the way. You're sitting with a guy and then somebody shows up with a very nice jacket worth maybe say like 1,500 or even 2,000 or even 3,000. The guy says, wow, that looks like a nice jacket. I love it, by the way. How? Let me just have it. Can you do 28? Yeah, done. They've just transacted. And now I'm like, wow. Like sometimes I could ask, like, did you head by budgeting for that specific thing? No, I mean, it's a nice jacket. I mean, after all, and I had the money in my pocket. Now, two chances that have made you actually made that purchase. Number one, and it's good you listen to this. Number one, it's good to understand the reason why you bought that jacket. It is because you have violated what we call not having an idle money. Number one, it's because you have a what? Idle money. Right? You have that, the uncommitted money. And I always tell people, if you have uncommitted money, then it means that money ought to go to anywhere that is out there, okay? And number three, you actually have that problem of what? You are a spendthrift. Spendthrift, okay? If you are a spendthrift, then you're going to get yourself into that problem. So those are the two identities, or those are two things that have made you purchase that specific thing that you don't really need it, but you've ended up budgeting or buying that specific thing. All right, now let's go to the next point. You see, in anything that we do as far as our money is concerned, there is something called the hierarchy of priorities. Now, this is called the hierarchy or hierarchy, depends on how you pronounce the name. Hierarchy of priorities, okay? Priorities. Now, at the top here, these are the really things that you cannot be able to do away with. Now, those are the things that you have to cater for. For example, here, you can talk of something called like the food, the shelter, the shelter. Let me just call them the must-have things, okay? The must-have things. And then below here, there are things that we call them, they're good to have, or they're sort of, these are things that we complement our lives and all those kind of things. As you move down below the hierarchy of priorities, this is now where you find the luxuries, this is where you find things like to do the support of other family members or something of sort. Here, you have to also make sure that at least development should be at least at this particular point and all those kind of things. So as you move down the hierarchies, that's the time you realize these are the things that ought to be catered for as fast as I can. So whenever you want to buy that specific thing, ask yourself, under this hierarchy of priorities, where does it fall? Does it fall under the lowest priorities, which is a luxury, or does it fall under the things that we call them the must-have? Because we human beings ought to have the must-have things at the top of the hierarchy in terms of the priorities. Those are the things that we need to have. Obviously, you cannot negotiate with a place to live, a shelter and clothing, school fees, some maybe you have some debts. All those, we call them the hierarchy of priorities. Now, before you even budget that specific, before you buy that specific thing, ask yourself, hey, guess what? Well, I don't deny it's a nice jacket, it's a nice shoe, it's a nice whatever, it's a nice car if you're in that category. But then ask yourself, am I really getting the best deal? Is it the best way that I can actually utilize this money? Or maybe do I have like another way of that I stand to gain more with this amount of money compared to what I'm doing right now? You see, now that kind of now draws you back, or takes you back to something that I usually call it the 10-second rule. See, if you didn't watch the previous video that I talked about 10-second rule, it is called the 10-second rule. Okay, it's simply an idea of whenever you want to buy something, grab that specific thing, look at it and ask yourself, okay, fine, why am I buying this thing? Okay, you give yourself a true reasons. Okay, fine, I want to buy this because of 1, 2, 3. Okay, now what if I don't buy it? What will happen? Like, what that thing in my life will actually change? Will I be able to actually perform normally? Is my goals affected by me not purchasing this specific thing? What gap does it fill out there? Do I have the money to buy this specific thing? Can I afford that money? And by the way, is there a better deal that I can get compared to what I'm about to do that specific thing? So if you can actually answer yourself in those 10 seconds, you can actually be able to get the best deal. So if you do really need it, do you want it? Is it a must you have it? And by the way, is it the best thing that you can ever get it? By the way, are you getting the best price? Have you compared with other places or something of sort? But this is you're just showing up to a place, you see a thing, you buy and go. Then the next minute you find people are telling you, hey, that thing you have actually bought it at quite an expensive place. Or even if you don't meet anybody out there, once you're going into the streets, you see, by the way, have you ever realized this? Once you buy something and then you happen to meet it along the way, you tend to sort of kind of go check it again and see whether you got the best deal or something. Also, you can just imagine go and check it and you realize that you did fork a lot of money compared to what is out there. Okay, so the point is, it's always good to make sure that at least you ask yourself whether you're getting the best value of your money or value for your money out there at all the occasion. And this is what I always tell people: be careful, be vigilant, be observative as far as your money is concerned. This thrift shopping thing can actually affect a lot of people. And by the way, this is what I want you to do as I finish this video. Take your time, just play stupid, take your time, take a whole month, buy yourself a book or a diary, and then each and every day be noting down that amount of money that you utilize, not far from the main budget that you had. Okay, be noting down that amount of money each and every day towards as far as that the whole month is concerned. And then at the end, then monitor how much you've actually consumed towards this thrift shopping. Guess what will happen? You will be shocked. I dare you that you'll be shocked, because you realize most of the money actually goes towards this specific thing. There was a time I decided to do exactly that, and guess what? That was my changing point. I realized some of these things that I'm actually buying, maybe say I'm going out there, I grab some hot dogs, I go out there, I grab some whatever, those funny things, those eateries, maybe I go somewhere, I grab maybe in a joint. By the time you realize, you've actually affected a lot as far as your money is concerned. So it's always good to be vigilant, observative, and also making sure that you work with a budget. By the time now, as you walk around with a budget, stick to yourself. You always know one thing: no matter who shows up out there, unless it's an avoidable circumstance. We usually have these unavoidable circumstances that you cannot be able to negotiate with it. That's how life is. Okay, but if you can actually be able to detach yourself from you spending that money, so be it. That is exactly what we do it. So now what's the point? If anything is above 500, always make sure that you budget it. But that amount of money that I've actually shown out there, it depends with how much you usually earn out there. For example, maybe your 500 is 5,000, maybe 10,000, 100,000. Depends on how much you usually make per month or per day, per week, or whichever the case. Maybe your 500 is maybe like 100 bob. There's someone who can just thrift shop 100 Kenyan shilling in a day, and they have affected almost everything. For example, say maybe you're employed somewhere and usually get a salary of around 450 Kenyan shillings a day. Sure, there are people who usually get that amount of money per day. And then maybe you get your 100 bob and you thrift shop it. Probably you're going to affect a lot of things. Maybe your transport, maybe some of your savings that you usually do, or something of sort. So it is always good to understand what is that number that you can operate as your minimum and budgeted amount that you can go out there, buy a thing without even you considering whatever is going to happen out there. All right, so those are the nitty-gritties that you're supposed to know, incorporate, and understand as far as the money is concerned. All right, guess what? That marks the end of my video, but don't forget this: my number is always on the description of this specific video. And I know some of you don't even know where the description of the video is. Okay, now you see where we have the number of views and likes and what have you. Just below there is always like a small thing written more. Click that more. Once you click that more, you go to that description where you'll see my email, you see my number. If you'd like to get my services at a personal level, tailored and customized information for you, pick that number of mine, shoot me a call, or maybe go ahead and send me an email. I'll be able to actually get it, and we can be able to go ahead and do business. If you need all those services, I offer those services at a cup of coffee's price. And don't forget, I got myself some booklets about investments on treasury bills, treasury bonds, circles, about money market fund, about rates, and all those kind of areas. So if you wanna, any of my booklets goes for only 280 Kenyan shillings. Go pick it up and let's do something as far as our investment is concerned in this 2024. For now, it's a goodbye, and see you in the next one.